Recording on this computer. All right. We're recording. Gotta love technology. Hey, folks, it's Paul Klassen here with Pinnacle Group. We're a renovation and custom build company. I've got Sean Crump of the joining us here today from Included by Design. He's an ambassador in the accessibility world. And then, of course, Mike Dummer from Digital Lifestyles, a technology piece. So we kind of all got chatting about an event that's coming up here end of May, early June called Accessibility Week. It's a huge deal across Canada, across the world. And we just thought we just have a little chat and a little podcast regarding this for all of you that might want to know more. So I'm just going to jump right over to Sean. Sean, your company's called Included by Design, but to give us a little bit of feel, why should we pay attention to Accessibility Week? What's happening with some of the events around it?
Yeah, I think that it's a good week to bring attention to the barriers that exist in our communities and kind of bring that gap to the forefront of people's attention and really how to make environments, experiences, and all of that more inclusive and inviting for people. I think right now, as we're looking at and eager to get back into our communities and get back into social, gatherings and exchanges, how do we do it so that more people are coming out of isolation than went in because of COVID? We can now kind of empathize with people struggling emotionally in the mental association with isolation. And so knowing that over just this short amount of time, in comparison, I guess, a long amount of time for a lot of people being isolated, people, those living with disabilities have done it for far longer, and it's not something new. Or a new experience for those people. So I think it's a really good and unique opportunity to see how we can create more equitable environments for people to participate in. And I think that goes for the commercial and residential front. How do we create homes, communities, neighborhoods where everybody can participate at birthday parties, trick-or-treating, after school events? How do we start normalizing the inclusion of people with disabilities?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Sean. I actually, as you know, we're in the renovation world and we do a lot of accessible retrofits. And that's one of the things that has come to light for me. I've been involved in some threads with various folks that are living in a wheelchair. And they just said, you think you've got it tough. Well, get used to our reality. This is how we live every day, which is a shocking thing. But, segueing over to you, Mike, the technology world is pretty amazing in terms of what's coming to the forefront here with homes and automating and then just even for caregivers and all of that. Give us a little bit of a snapshot. So we've got a rental tour, as you all know, coming up on June 24th, and this is kind of the chat around that. We're going to show you a couple of the sneak peek photos of that 3D renderings. But talk a little bit about that, Mike. What do you bring to the table?
Well, we actually do automation, and that's a pretty generalized term, but essentially what we do is we take all of the tasks that you would normally have to do to operate your house or to live in your house, and essentially we automate them so that it gives you the ability to do it if you have limited ability, or from the convenience standpoint, you actually don't have to do it. The actual device will do it for you. Let me give you a couple examples. So let's take your lighting, your climate control, let's say your blinds or your shades in the house, door locks, and opening and closing doors. Now, if you could do this and you could control all of that from your voice or a touch screen, like a smartphone or something, have an app on there. Voice seems to be the prevalent thing now, though, because we can reduce that to just a couple of phrases and people get using those phrases and it just works. So it's obviously more convenient, it makes more sense. But we can take a lot of these things that you would normally have to do, like run around, turn on and off light switches, trying to do it at night when you get home, or having to go lock your doors, run downstairs, lock your doors, run upstairs, turn off the light, so on and so forth. We can automate that. We can put it on a schedule so it does it itself, or basically on demand through voice. So if you have limited mobility, and you know what, I should actually back up a second here. Like you guys were talking about, accessibility. This can be a temporary thing for people too. Like accessibility kind of, this disability comes and goes. That could be a hip replacement, an injury. It could be knees. It could be arthritis could be causing this. So there's a lot more people affected by this than what you would think, I guess. Probably everybody at some point is going to deal with this.
I'm gonna jump in here for a second, Mike, because Sean and I had a kind of a chuckle the other day, because Sean, as some of you may or may not know, Sean was injured in a diving accident many years ago and lives as a quadriplegic. But he had you trick out his house with automated doors, and the chuckle was that his partner Christine tends to use it as much or more than Sean does for groceries.
Well, your hands are full. It makes sense that you could just walk in and, you know what? We do this all the time anyway. If you think about it, you go in and out of stores, like you go to the shopping mall or you go to grocery stores. Those doors have been automated for years. And they're automated for a reason, because you're expected to carry things in and out, or you're pushing a cart, or you got kids with you or whatever. It's why wouldn't we just do that in our houses? When you've got the capability to do that, we just don't do it. So it's the same thing with your lighting. I'll use a car as an example. If you buy a new car, you actually start the thing from your house or wherever you happen to be. It can be an app on your phone, and it starts and the heater comes on, and maybe your seats heat up or it cools down depending on the climate, sets the right temperature. You start driving away, the lights turn on for you, right? And now they basically drive for you. But why would you live in an antiquated house that doesn't do any of it? Like, it's there because it makes it easier, more convenient, and safer. Right. So essentially, if you sort of look at that model and you transfer that to your house, it's like, well, of course that makes sense. We have this weird sort of idea that you go through these sort of stages in life, and you buy these different houses for these different stages or different reasons, right? So, you're young, and I get it, that would be your first house. So it's usually small, and it's like you and your wife, or your husband, your partner, whatever. And then you have a family, and you kind of upsize from there. And then, your kids get older and they move out, and then you downsize. And then when you get older, you realize that this sort of oncoming mobility or disability issue, it's just going to hit everybody. So what do? Well, then you have to make a plan to do that. So we go through all these, we actually, for whatever reason, it's been accepted. It's just accepted that you're going to do this, when in fact, if you're actually smart about it, everything is there in place so that you actually don't have to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to relocate necessarily.
No, you just stay where you are.
Yeah. It's the impetus of my business, right? Like, we have this conversation all the time, love it or list it. And especially as it relates to somebody living with a disability, or those that might want to live in their lifetime home and want to trick it out so they can. Nobody wants to leave their current neighborhood. They've got those neighbors established. No, Sean, look at your place. I mean, you live in a nice, you live in a nice bungalow.
Walkout basement, bungalow. We often have a joke, Mike, as people come over and they see the automatic door, and it's people don't manually open their garage doors anymore either.
Exactly.
You know what? That's a really good example.
Great point.
Because we actually do that. We sort of synchronize those doors and automate the garage door opener. But I'm old enough. I remember if you had a garage, you actually, had to pick it and
solid door,
hoist it up or whatever. Can you imagine people doing that? Nobody would do that.
No, not today.
No, like that would be ridiculous. And it's -30 out or something. You're going to go open your garage door. But we used to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody would do that now. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, we have all of this stuff available. It can be baked into the house. It's really reliable. It works well. It's easy to use, with that, like I said, the added bonus of you can just talk to it and it'll work. That allows you to stay in your house, or you know, you can, if it's already baked in there, like these houses that you're building or renovating, Paul. I mean, you don't even know it's in there.
Nope.
When I was
None of this stuff is visible. I can have a laundry list of things that this house does, and if you walked in, you wouldn't know any of it. You wouldn't see any of it.
Yep. Well, we'll segue into that. Sean, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of bring up, like, this is a growing trend, whether you institute disability or accessibility into the conversation or not. This home automation thing, it seems like more and more houses are becoming automated to a certain degree, where it may be exclusively the light switch, but I mean, you know, Nest thermostats and all of these things, they're not built for disability. They're built because people are, you know, inherently passive when they want things controlled. And
in other words, lazy. That's me.
It creates an ease, it creates a level of control, and it maybe also provides that secondary support from somebody maybe not living in the home that can still help monitor how the home's running, functioning.
You know, that's a good point too, because all of the stuff that all of the technology in the house, it can be monitored from off-site. Like you could be anywhere in the world, and if you just have an internet connection, you can log in, or you can actually operate all the functions of the house, and you can kind of see what's going on. You get a report, right? So it's kind of like a health report. So the reality is, even if you, and honestly, this was designed for people to go on vacation, to lock and leave their houses.
Yeah, you've done that for so many of our clients, Mike. In fact, I was just talking to a client this last week, and they were talking about renovating, and one of them said, well, we can't leave our renovation with going to our California winter home. And I said, of course you can. You can do it during the renovation, because we have an online cloud-based platform that will help them monitor the project as they go. But then when it's done, your software and your technology will allow them to monitor it from your smartphone.
Well, it does, but it also, this should be stated too, that if there's an issue or somebody's having like a usability issue or something, we can actually remotely solve that.
Which you've done for me a number of times.
Yeah, I mean, we can just sort of dial in and fix whatever it is, or at least find out exactly what's going on.
I think that's, as we all know, we're dealing with parents. A lot of us boomers are dealing with aging parents, and we'd like to check in on them, and all that technology allows us to do that. I'm just going to segue, guys, just in the interest of time, segue into the project coming up on June 24th. And I know, Sean, the narrative that I hear constantly from you, and it's something that it's why us three, I think, get along as well. We do with our collective companies, but it's about that invisible design. So walking into a home, and we're going to show you guys a sneak peek here in a second with some of the 3Ds. But Sean, speak to that. I mean, why is it important for a home not to look like you're a disabled person, or you're dealing with a major issue? Why do you want it invisible?
So first of all, I'm also getting a sneak peek at this project, so I'm really excited to see this. I'm keen to get to that, but it's important because there's a couple of factors that come into it. One, somebody's home is probably one of the largest assets they're going to purchase in their lifetime. So by creating or having your uncle come in and put that wooden, ramp on the front, or the red-green repairs on things to make them work and function, it's great in terms of a usability and a function. You have to do what you have to do in order to improve the independence. But when you're looking at a home and you're looking at resale, or you're looking at purchase, or you're looking at any of those aspects, even having people into your home, the last thing you want to do is have them come into a place that feels, looks, or kind of runs like a institution, like a hospital or like a nursing home. You want it to still feel like your home. You still want it to be something that you're relaxed in, but you also have the safety of being there, living independently. And I think that that's a big piece that a lot of people kind of struggle with, is making the best of a situation. And oftentimes that's not the most safe environment to be, living in. And again, people are going to do what they have to do in order to, live their life and do it with some kind of anonymity. But I think that there's a really, really nice value to not only having an accessible home, but having one that nobody else really realizes where the features are or what
Right.
aspects of it are accessible. So I'm really, really excited to see some of the stuff you've done. I've seen your previous work. I've seen, I experience Mike's platform and home automation on a daily basis, and I use it very, very often. If it's forgetting to lock the door, forgetting to turn off lights, unlocking the door for my caregiver to arrive, if Christine is away, whatever it might be, it's the simplicity of my life that creates the independence. And it's something that a lot of people come to the house and experience as just a cool home automation aspect. So in terms of the physical
Yeah.
pieces, I'm keen to see.
Yeah, we'll segue into some slides here in just a few seconds. I think that's a really cool statement there, because I think what's amazing to me is it doesn't matter what the age is. I just recently installed an elevator for an 89-year-old gentleman and his wife. I can't know her age. That wouldn't be right, but he happily volunteered his age. But at 89 years old, and especially during COVID, you mentioned that, Sean, earlier. There's been some other dynamics that have come to play, and that is that so few people line 20 people up over 75 years of age in the city and ask them if they want to live in a senior care facility. And there's a resounding no from that demographic. So, just seeing that segue or that pivot, I guess, with our world, we see more and more people just not wanting to leave. But that component, it seems is so interesting, because nobody wants to be perceived as old. And I would suspect, Sean, I don't know how I can say this politically correct, but you don't want people to walk in your home and see institution. You want to see a normal home.
Nursing home. I don't want to live in a long-term care facility. I don't want my home to represent that or to mimic it. So by having things that aren't apparent, but still provide the utility I require, that's a win-win.
That's awesome. Well, look, and yeah, let's segue right into some 3Ds and some of these sneak peeks here, because this home, Sean, you're gracious enough to come on this podcast and just advocate for us, and you've got a great kind of network in the accessibility world, just because you work in that world and you also live that world daily. But just tickled to have you on, and Mike as well. You've done a fair amount of work in this home. So let's just share our screen here. And I'm just going to go into my, I've got a lovely batch. This is how technology works. Anyway, there we go. Start from, I'm just going to jump right into a slide down farther. Yeah, that just takes us right to a sneak peek. So let's jump into that. And I'm going to have a little bit of a commentary from Mike and Sean as well, that might just lend itself to this. But Sean, as you know, we're doing both a virtual tour of this coming up on the 24th, as well as a physical tour. The physical tour is really tough. We'd suggest you RSVP very, very quickly for this, because we only allowed just a handful of people through that day because of COVID. But who knows? By June 24th, things may have opened up a bit. Who knows? Anyway, here's a couple of sneak peeks. So here's a 3D kind of dollhouse look of this space. And we talked a lot about the design of this particular project. This particular lady was involved in an accident herself, is now a paraplegic living in a wheelchair, has a full-time caregiver as well, and has some unique physical conditions that really require a lot of care. But one of the things we did is put a 3-stop elevator into this corner, garage, main floor, basement. So it really lends itself well to access. Sadly, it's my understanding that this lady may have not been in her basement for a long time, or very, very rarely. She has a walkout bungalow as well, Sean. So much like you, it became their forever home once we started down the design path. And you start looking at this home, when you look at it just from a snapshot, Sean, anything here that looks institutional?
No, not so far.
Well, we'll walk in the front door. So as you walk in the front door, the garage door is here. Elevator access is from the garage, roll right in. Very generous corridor, so this lady can pivot with her wheelchair if needed. A 36-inch entry. We did not create the main bath as accessible. But as you roll through, all these corridors are generous, all kinds of pull-out fun stuff, drop counter that looks like a baking center, but in fact, it's a wheelchair pull-up spot for her to prep.
Probably good for grandkids or kids as well to participate in cooking or baking and that kind of stuff too, I would guess.
Totally, Sean, totally. And Mike, just before I go into some of the other things, I'll just quickly run the 36-inch hallway, a 48-inch barn door that slides on an invisible slide, which is going to be fun to see at the tour. And then as you come in, just this spa-like experience with this drapery that covers a roll-in curbless shower and a Bain Ultra tub that's the king or queen of tubs, depending on how you want to look at it, for aromatherapy and just some of her massage therapy. A roll-up vanity, so open under. Her laundry is right here. She can roll right in. Her husband is her primary caregiver during the evenings and night, but she does have a full-time caregiver during the day. Anyway, that's that one. And then as just another shot here, now you can see the wheelchair pulled up to the drop center. But Sean, anything yet looking institutional?
No, nothing poking out so far, and very functional. I think the nice thing there is there's this intuitiveness or intuitive wayfinding again. And so when you're thinking about, that non-institutional, you're not having to overly dictate where the accessible versus non-accessible kind of routes, paths of travel or anything like that are. It just kind of has that steady flow.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. And things like a lowered microwave, all the drawers. This is a custom pantry pullout, so she can pull it out. All her spices are right there. She can prep. The sink is a little high, but her husband does that. This is a unique lifestyle to them. And then Mike, maybe speak to the doors, because this is a threshold-free door. Literally, you roll right across this threshold onto the raised deck, which has a little bit of mountain view. Walk out below. Tell us what you did to the doors here, Mike.
Well, there's actually 3 so far in this house that they'll have automatic motorized door openers on them. You actually won't be able to see that. You won't know it. They'll actually open and close manually if you wanted to. But you can be in that kitchen and you just ask for the door to open and the door will open. And
awesome.
With entry and exit of the house as well. Not only that, but it'll work in conjunction with obviously a lock and lighting. So when that happens, it triggers a cascade of things that just make sense when you want to go out there, for instance, or wherever you want to go. That's part of the automation of the house. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm interested in the zero threshold. That's something I get hung up on a lot. Like I actually just put a couple new doors in from Lux, and they've got kind of like a bump built right into the frame of the door. And then there's obviously the threshold gap from my flooring up to the door frame, and then on the other side of it. So there's almost this middle section that I can get hung up on. And so, yeah, if you wouldn't mind explaining the zero threshold, because I thought with winter and with our climate, that would be something rather challenging to accomplish.
Yeah, well, you're right, Sean, and it is a compromise. So, and I clearly explain that to clients. It needs what's called a sweep on the bottom of the door. Most commercial doors have a sweep because they are zero threshold as well. So they're not perfectly sealed on the bottom. They're reasonably sealed, and they're warranted and all of that. But yeah, there's no hump. You're rolling right across onto the deck. Yep. It requires a little more maintenance because you're adjusting the threshold, like the sweep. It's called a sweep. It has a rubberized gasket that closes against the threshold. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So I wanted to jump into. So Mike, your company has. I just want to show you this picture as well, because here's the elevator opening. And Sean, you can just see the width of this corridor as you come out of the elevator, swivel to the front closet. If you go back to this picture, the front closet is there. This corridor, I intentionally pushed the closet into the garage. So she had a 60-inch corridor here. Welcoming guests. She has got a unique position where she's got to have her foot elevated off the chair as well. So there's a unique, larger girth, if you will, required. Mm-hmm. But then as you roll through, you just see the sheer size of this space. It's deceiving from the top down. And then you can see this shot from the from the kitchen. Again, a bar fridge, lowered microwave are all destined for her. This pantry pulls right out, so all the racking is right there. Everything is on drawers below. It's all designed for a seamless. It looks seamless, but it's all tricked out for her.
You know what, though? It actually kind of makes sense for anybody. A lot of this, quite frankly, right?
Well, Sean mentioned it, right? Like, think about grandkids pulling up to this, or a baking center. So having your table at 30 inches versus 36 just makes it a way better height for baking and rolling and kneading. You're doing your pizza dough or whatever.
You know what, though? You know, it doesn't mean that you have to be old enough to have grandkids to live in here. Your kids could be little or something. They want to do their homework there.
So true, Mike.
Right?
So true.
You're going to school from home now.
People are working from home.
Right. And they're working from home. It's like, well, not everybody, you should be able to do that in different parts instead of isolating it in an office in a corner of the house or something. That makes sense. That'd be a good second use for something like that.
100%.
Somebody who spends over 12 hours in my home office on a daily basis, I can tell you, I would love the opportunity to break up my day and maybe work at different locations and have some interaction while I'm doing things that aren't so heads down.
That's
just
a
make
really
something to eat while you're on your calls.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And just so you guys know, you will not see any brackets for anyone's knees to bump into. We have a very unique piece of engineering. There's 3 plate metal brackets that are buried in the granite and wrapped down in a Z format, like countertop down into the floor and bolted to the floor to suspend this piece of granite 24 inches out in space.
That's interesting. Nobody would actually get that.
No.
You need to point that out. Yeah. Otherwise, that thing is collapsed from the weight. Exactly.
Right? Serious engineering went into that. I hate the visual of brackets. Like, you could put a couple of table legs down here, but how fun would that be for her in the chair, right? She can't even swivel.
You know what? That's not good for anybody. That's actually a really good idea to just incorporate in any house if you can.
There you go.
Why would you not want to do that?
Yep.
Well, and again, for any kind of person living with a slight visual impairment, it's you put some indirect lighting underneath, maybe a little detection, like a bump or ridge underneath the table on the flooring, and all of a sudden it's identifiable by Kane or somebody with a more limited visual context.
Yeah, and we could easily do that so that when you come up to it, it just turns on.
Right.
There you go. You have the technology, Mike. I know.
We can do whatever. Yeah.
I know. I've got a couple of credits at the end here, and I'm really going to encourage all the viewers to look at Mike's video. The latest video is just a spectacular cross section of what's possible with technology. Now we have Mike list I don't know if you can list them off the top of your head, but I know health, accessibility, learning from home, working from home, education from home. The kids are being homeschooled as we speak. What else? What am I missing?
Inherent laziness.
The entertain.
Yeah, entertain. Yeah.
And the health at home. We're putting in products to support the virtual doctor's office and monitoring, various things like that now. Mm-hmm. You get a watch, and these watches are, an Apple Watch, for instance, is a very, very good indicator of how you're doing, and more capability are being built into this stuff. So what we're doing is we're creating a bit of a pipeline out to sort of healthcare providers. So, how I was mentioning earlier, how we can look in and see how the system is doing, we can service it. It's kind of like that, where you're going to have, I happen to know this is happening, for instance, with TELUS, the software, the healthcare software that they've been building. A lot of that, it's got the hooks in there so that your data or telemetry, for instance, can be uploaded in real time, and somebody can actually monitor that, or make a diagnosis or make it sort of a healthcare call based on that, and you don't have to leave or go anywhere. And honestly, that's how things are going. So you look at all that, we call them pillars of the work at home, the entertain, the health, the learn from home, all of these things. You're going to be in your home a lot more. You're not traveling to the office. They're not going to school as much. For a lot of people, that just suits their lifestyle better anyway. And I think there's going to be a big trend where you're going to have the choice to do that. So even if you have an office, for instance, or school, you're going to have, it'll be a hybrid. You'll have the opportunity to stay at home for some of that. It makes sense to build and design houses to support that.
Yeah, absolutely. Gentlemen, we're at about 30 minutes here. I'm just gonna kind of wrap it up, but I'm just gonna encourage everybody that's viewing this to go on Digital Lifestyle's website. I'll show you the credits here in a minute here, but I just wanted to kind of wrap up here. I think Mike and Sean, any last minute kind of thoughts with your dialogue? I've got the RSVP page up here for people to click on the event page and register for both the virtual and physical, but Accessibility Week, Sean, thanks for bringing that to our attention, having this podcast, bringing attention to that. And it just happened to be that we have a rental tour the month of Accessibility Week, which is great. It's a fully tricked out accessible tour. It's going to be fabulous to see there's not an institutional element in this project. It looks seamless, it looks gorgeous, and it's fully accessible. So yeah, looking for that. Any last minute comments from you, gents?
I'm going to guess you probably have the links in the comments as well. So there's a direct link if you can't get it through the video to sign up. I know I certainly will. And I'm eager to see some of the other pieces this house has to offer. The pull-out cabinetry and all of that is something that I'm eager to find out more about. So
I think people need to log in and see how this house functions. You actually need to see it, and then you'll understand.
You bet. Yeah, it's a time limited virtual tour. It's 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. on the 24th of June. So here's the 2 RSVP spots. Just go to pinnaclerenovations.ca, click on the events page. You'll have these 2 opportunities to register. I'm going to really recommend you register now for your physical tour, because we get filled up very, very quickly. We just had a tour a month ago and we filled up very, very quickly. But that's kind of the information. And lastly, I'm just thought to throw this slide up with all the industry partners. We've got Sean Crump, CEO of Included by Design. Sean does some amazing work in the commercial world as well as the residential world in ensuring that your home literally is designed, or your business is literally designed to be inclusive of all abilities. And then of course, Mike with digilife.ca, CEO there. Do check those websites out from both these gentlemen. Check out the DigiLife website for the video. Scroll down past the homepage, see the video. It's one of the best videos, Mike. I got to give hands down credit to you. It's a fabulous video. It's so all inclusive.
I'd like to take credit for it, but I didn't make it. We just came up with the idea for it and kind of wrote out all the ideas and stuff, but I had nothing to do with making it.
Understood. That's why we delegate, right? I do a lot of that as the owner of my company as well. We couldn't survive without our team, right?
They did a great job, and quite frankly, we used like friends and family and stuff as the actors in there.
Yes, I noticed that. I think your daughter's in one of them, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
After seeing it, I'm going to have your boys come back here. There's a few new tricks that you guys are doing that
that's right.
may not have existed a few years ago. So you're constantly evolving it, I see.
Well, they probably didn't exist at noon. What time is it now?
Yeah, exactly.
There's something new now. There's a new software release now.
Exactly. So true. Going to wrap up with these credits here. Phase One Design did all the design work here. Cambridge Elevators was the elevator supplier. CMAC Mechanical did all the HVAC and plumbing in there. 4-Star Electric. There's a lot of unique items that pair up with Mike's world in terms of powering up these power doors. Floors of Flair with a seamless flow of flooring. There is no lip anywhere, Sean. There is a perfectly smooth transition from tile to luxury vinyl plank to the elevator. Pacific Stone did all the stonework, and of course that custom countertop. They partnered with us with that. And then Pinnacle Custom Cabinets is our division doing the cabinetry piece. So anyway, really want to thank you both for doing this today. This has been fun. I think we both. I think you both brought a lot to the table in terms of what's out there, what to pay attention to. And I'm just going to say, kind of wrapping up. Whoops. My last slide was to say we look forward to hosting you again physically or virtually on the 26th at the Accessible Rental Tour. Awesome week to you, Sean, as you wrap up the month of May and into Accessibility Week. I know you'll be busy. And Mike, all the work that you bring to our clients day in and day out. Certainly thank you for that.
No, my pleasure, Paul. Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, great
Absolutely.
chat. I'm looking forward to the 24th. This is going to be amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. And all that you that watched, again, if I can just say, RSVP, June 24th is a magic date, and we'll see you all there. Thank you, Sean and Mike, for joining us today. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.